We're all like, ah,
Hi.
okay, we're live.
I'm pretty sure we're live. Okay, so welcome to AAPI Book Month. We are so excited to be part of this celebration. As you guys can probably tell, this is the K-pop in young adult panel, and I am just introducing the panel. We're kind of doing like a free-for-all round robin situation here, but I'm Kat Cho, author of, I have it right here, Wicked Fox, Vicious Spirits. But my upcoming book is Once Upon a K-Prom, coming out next year, about a K-pop star who comes back to town and asks the main character out to prom. And yeah. Axie, why don't you take it away?
Okay. Hi, my name is Axie Oh. I'm the author of Rebel Soul Broke Heart. My debut was a sci-fi series. And then my latest novel is a K-pop novel, and it's called XOXO, and it comes out July 13th. So almost a month.
Oh my God.
So soon.
And it's like a fun book about it's a YA rom-com about a regular girl. I mean, she plays the cello, how regular, and she falls for a K-pop star. Yay! So
I'll go next.
Okay.
I'm Maurene Goo. I am the author of several books, the latest one being a K-pop related book called Somewhere Only We Know. And unlike everybody here, I am not that prepared. I am frazzled. I have a baby, but my book is up here somewhere on that shelf. And it's about a K-pop star named Lucky who has an unforgettable whirlwind romance in 24 hours with a guy she meets in Hong Kong.
Yay! I loved that book. I loved it so much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lyla. I'm the author of I'll Be the One, which is about a Korean American girl who enters an internationally broadcasted K-pop competition in LA to be the world's first plus-size K-pop star.
Yay!
Hey. And I'm Stephan, and I am the author of K-Pop Confidential, and my cover star has come to life in Kat. And my book is about a Korean American teen who travels to Korea to enter a trainee program. And as we all know, trainee programs get lit. So what happens when there's, and my sequel is called K-Pop Revolution. It's coming out in April of next year.
Yay!
Yay!
Exciting.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with the questions. So our first question is, what was your entry group singer to K-pop?
Oh, this is a good one.
Yes. I feel like I'm older than all of you, so I'm gonna answer. It's gonna date me like crazy, but it's Hoteji, right? So I'm like, do you guys even know who they are?
Yeah.
Right?
Like the
Classic. Yeah, the OGs.
I think they literally were maybe the first to be considered K-pop, and I did witness that when I was little.
Yeah.
But I would say like the big moment where like I actually enjoyed K-pop and like went out of my way and went to the and bought the CD was HOT.
Oh, I'm gonna go next because HOT is one of mine.
Yeah.
My auntie went away to school and then came back and was like, "Have you heard of HOT?" And I was like, "No," like 13-year-old me or whatever. And she like played me their song "We Are the Future."
Yes, sir.
The one, I like fell in love with K-pop. Like it's the one where they wear these like matching silk pajamas pretty much and like dance really hard.
Yeah.
And so I loved them. And then I mentioned jewelry earlier because I really liked them. They were like the girl group I liked. And then the one that like I didn't realize was like an Ajumma group, like groups that Ajumma likes, but I liked them was SG Wannabe. I loved their music videos, loved them so much. They're like dramas, little mini dramas. Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll go. So I came to K-pop really late because when I was growing up in Georgia, it wasn't like, I don't know, I think I was trying more to fit in, so I didn't like really know that much about K-pop. Although I remember like a lot of other kids really like Turbo or something. I don't really.
Oh yes.
What?
But like my first like kind of peak was actually jewelry too, because I went to Korea for one of those like summertime language schools at Yonsei.
Oh, Yonsei?
Yeah, and oh, rivalry. And I remember on the plane, I saw a music video for Jewelry, and I was like, oh, they're kind of cool. And then I bought a CD and I gave it to friends when I got home. But my real intro group was 21, because yeah, I was asked to do a article for Entertainment Weekly, and like they were the big girl group, and I'm obsessed with girl groups in general. So they were kind of my first big stand-up that I got into.
Mm.
21 was the first group that I stand. You know what I mean? Like, where I was like, I am a blackjack. Like I claimed the fandom name. So I feel you so hard. I went to Iwa, by the way. That's why I was like, oh, fine, Yonsei.
I did my summer program at Yonsei, Stephan, so.
Yay!
Wow.
Axie and I are in a family feud.
It's like doing like drinking and stuff, and I was like, like I was like.
I guess I'll go next because I'm gonna say some of the same artists. It's funny because like I can figure out like my elementary school years, my middle and high school years, and my college years based on what group I liked at the time. Like elementary, HOT, Finkel, Shinhwa, and then Boa, and then later in middle school and high school it was like Super Junior, Big Bang, and then college was like Shiny, Dongbang Shinki, and then later EXO. So it's like interesting because it's like I know what K-pop groups were big during the time. So I just remember how much I loved it, and like experiencing like VHS tapes in elementary school, and then the beginning of YouTube, or like during like, high school, and then like the explosion of YouTube. Like you can watch anything you want in college and like after. So for me, it's more like I guess my intro group would have been Finkel because that's the first album I ever I bought, or my uncle, my samchon, he bought me 6 of the albums that were already out. And Finkel was like this 90s girl group of like 4 members. One of them is Lee Hyori, who's like really famous now. Or there's a lot of, they're all famous now. I mean, one's married, 2 are married. 3 are married? Anyway.
I don't know.
They're like the ultimate girl group. Them and SES, I feel like, were like with T and that kind of era of like girl groups.
I just remember that there was one summer that all we did was listen to G.O.D. Pablo in the basement and just like dance around to Pablo over and over and over again. And also YG Family's YMCA.
Oh yeah. Okay, if you're a G-Dragon stan, watch YG Family's YMCA because he's like 12 in it and he's like rapping, sitting.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He's amazing in it, and he's just as good as he is now, but just tiny.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I think I'm the youngest here, so it's funny.
Lyla's
basically, yeah. So it's funny, like hearing you guys talk about your K-pop groups because like those are groups that I found out about like when I was older. I was looking into the history of K-pop, but like meanwhile, like yeah. But yeah, so but I think when I lived in Korea in the 90s, I definitely grew up with like the 90s K-pop groups playing the radio and stuff. So I was kind of aware of them like then. But I think as a fan, the first group that I actually paid attention to was EBSK, which is when I was in middle school. And then Big Bang, DBSK, SNSD, those groups. And then I kind of fell away from K-pop when I was in high school, and I kind of came back to it in college when BTS became like big. So yeah.
I feel like that's fair. Okay, I'll ask the next question. So what are some of the tracks off your K-pop playlist, and do they have any significance to scenes in your book?
Let me pull up my playlist right now.
I feel like Axie knows the answer to this question.
Well, it was interesting because, like, spoiler, the first question I asked, Kat wrote that question, I wrote this question, but I wrote this question wanting to know all your answers because I don't really have an answer.
Yeah,
but because when I write a book, I usually just listen to whatever just came out. So actually, my K-pop playlist for XOXO was just the latest BTS album that again come out.
it wasn't EXO's XOXO over and over again.
No, I wish.
Yeah.
Like the actual like playlist I make, but it was Map of the Soul had just come out. It was last year, so I just listened to like the songs over and over and over again, like just on repeat. And my favorite off that album is the I think it's called 0 o'clock, but it's like the 00:00, and it's just so like heartwarming because it's about like you're having a bad day. And everything's going wrong. It's okay because midnight will come and it's like a reset. It's a whole new day. And I was like, I love that just because writing is so stressful. And then like sometimes I'll have a bad day. And it's okay. Tomorrow, I got this. And so I also think it's like the mantra for my characters too, where it's like, you know, they're struggling, especially for my K-pop characters who are K-pop stars. You know, they're struggling, but you know, they have the mindset that another day will, you know, is a new day. And I love that message.
I like that answer a lot. That was like a really sweet answer. I thought we were supposed to
Sorry.
Yeah, my answer's stupid.
No.
Yeah, but like,
I do have songs that are for specific scenes, though, if that's the answer you want.
That's the actual answer that I was supposed to looking for from with my question.
Well, there's this song that one of the characters sings that's a real K-pop song, and it's FT Island's Kobek. Which is like one of their B-sides. It wasn't like one of their title tracks, but like, first of all, Hongki's voice is like so good. So like, I love his voice and I love anything he sings, but Kobek is like just one of their softer, quieter songs that like, they also have like an acoustics version of it, which I like better. And there's a whole scene that's like written around that song. So that's a very obvious answer. And then Sean's Way Back Home, like, I liked it. I liked the song a lot, but then I was really paying attention to what the lyrics actually were. And it's about this person that like, no matter where they go, they'll find their way back home and they will never lose these memories of home. And this person that reminds them of home. And that's very accurate to K-pop because the idea is that these two kids who were best friends when they were like 10 years old, one of them moved away. And then he became a huge K-pop star. And now he's come back home to like reconnect with his childhood best friend. So I was like, oh, this is really accurate. So that's great. So yeah.
I kind of have the same thing. Like, I don't really like, honestly, when I listen to K-pop, my Korean fluency is not that great. So it's not like I'm like, oh, the lyrics speak to me. It's like, they talk too fast and I don't know what words they're using. So for them, unless it's like the chorus that you hear over and over again, I'm like, I don't actually am understanding what is happening. But so like the feel of my movie to me, like I really liked, and I don't even know if Neon Bunny is considered K-pop because she's more like indie feeling. But Neon Bunny, there's this song that she has called Romance and Soul that I loved. Like the feeling, it just feels like the mood. It feels like city at nighttime. And then honestly, this is not a K-pop song, but it is so on the nose, accurate to my book, even the character's name, but Britney Spears' Lucky is basically my character Lucky. Everyone's like, oh, you base Lucky off Lucky. I'm like, no, but it just happened to be like, holy crap, when I listened to it, I'm like, this is exactly Lucky's story. And I named Lucky after just Asian people loving the concept of luck, right? So I was like, it's such a K-pop name, but people thought I named after Britney Spears, which I was like, you know, I love Britney, and that song is from like my era of like youth, but I felt like, no. However, if you listen to the lyrics, it is literally my story. So those are two songs. And then obviously Somewhere Only We Know is a song. The title is a song by Travis. And then, is it Travis? Oh, shoot. Oh, God, I always get Travis mixed up with, yes, it's Travis. And then Lily Allen covered it too. So I listened to, oh no, it's Keen. I'm sorry. See, I get Travis and Keen mixed up. again, I'm old. That was like in my youth, Travis and Keen was an era of indie rock music. But yeah, now it's a cover by Lily Allen and it's gorgeous. So I listen to those songs a lot.
Mhm.
I would say like one of mine would be Ugly by 21 because it says so much about, you know, just like image. And even though my protagonist is, you know, female, like, you know, I've struggled with like image too, like especially being Korean, living in America, but also being Korean and being compared to on Korean standards.
Mhm.
And also in that kind of same vein, I really like Tala Tala by ITZY because it's just like so the vibe of like what I want to go for, that positivity and stuff, and kind of like this like stronger messaging from girl groups. And also, I don't know why, but this is more of like a writing thing, but like I really listen to Oh My Mistake by April so many times while I was writing it, just because of the way it sounds. It just feels like it sounds like you're like going into Seoul or driving into Seoul from Incheon Airport. I don't know, it's so exciting and like it has so much energy. So those are kind of like my three when I was writing.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually laughing when Axie was mentioned After the Soul because that's what I listened to when I was writing my second YA book, which comes out next year, named Flip the Script. It's about Korean dramas, not K-pop, so not really relevant to this panel. But yeah, that was a pretty fun aside. Probably the one though, it's about a K-pop competition. So at first, like, I was like asking the publisher, can I have like real songs like in this book? Would they like sue me? but luckily, like they said, like I could as long as I didn't like defame the artist, and they were like you can refer to like BTS and like include like real songs as long as you don't like actually like insult them or anything. So I was like okay. So I actually have like a playlist for I'll Be the One on my website, but it basically has songs that like characters actually cover in the book. So Lee Hi's 1, 2, 3, 4, BTS's Idol, and Ailey's You and I. And it's crazy because Ailey's You and I was like it's like the spoiler, it's like the finale song in I'll Be the One. And for the Korean edition of my book, Ailey herself, the K-pop queen, she like blurred my book for the Korean edition. So I was like, she actually read my book and she saw the clip of me like, not a clip, the scene where I like referred to her song. It's so embarrassing.
No.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. But I was like, oh my god, yeah, she loved it. Luckily, but I was like mortified. It's like when you like when a celebrity knows you and you're like, oh my god, they know I'm a person.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm surprised they let you do that because you know for my books, I've been told never include song lyrics because you
I
need
think the
permission for that.
lyrics, you need
But like I
permission,
use
the names
the
are
title.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, the title's
of
okay.
song.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
use lyrics for I actually used lyrics for an American song, Problem by Ariana Grande. And they were totally fine with it. I think it depends on like how many lines that you include or something.
Yeah, and how you use it.
Oh.
Like if you use it in a bad way, it's like not allowed.
I
Yeah.
also think maybe it's publisher by publisher and how paranoid they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
Okay. So I
Right.
think I'm next.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm next to answer. I'm not answer. Ask a question. So my question is, how has K-pop or your Korean culture as a whole influenced your writing?
Ooh.
We're getting into serious questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will answer this because K-dramas, so my second book, I Believe in a Thing Called Love, was about a girl who uses K-drama tropes to get a boyfriend, right? So obviously that's like an obvious reference I had to use and watch K-dramas, but as a storyteller who writes a lot of romance, you can't beat K-dramas. I think that Koreans, if we grew up with K-dramas, like we understand the beats of a romance and we understand impactful emotional writing because that's what all K-dramas deliver. So whenever people don't understand K-dramas, I'm like, if you watch them, you will become a better storyteller you will understand, like, how do you make people care about characters? How do you make characters feel real? How can you pull off insane concepts and make them feel grounded? You know, how do you get people to care about it? So I feel like I've learned so much from K-dramas, and just having that was a huge influence my whole life. I've watched K-dramas since I was a kid, as much as I've watched American media. So for sure, that's how it's impacted me. And K-pop, I don't know. K-pop, I've got to be real, even though it's the K-pop panel. My relationship to K-pop is not as organic or authentic. It's very learned, you know, and I had to do a lot of research for this book for Somewhere in Limino, and I became like a fan of K-pop, but it's not like a part of my upbringing. I was a Korean teenager with a lot of Korean friends, and I felt really whitewashed. You know, they called me that too, because I didn't really listen to K-pop. I didn't go to church. I wasn't part of the cool Korean. They're like the cool Asian kids, and they were like they're so scared. They're scary and cool. I was like the nerd, and they were like, oh, the nerd that like hangs out with other races. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. So, you know, my relationship to K-pop is more like I was adjacent to it, and I knew about it because I knew all the popular stuff because the cool kids knew about it. But I didn't really love it until I started researching for Somewhere in Limino as like a full-grown adult. And then I was like, oh, there is like a kinship I have to this music because it's always been there, but also like the fandom to me is really interesting now. And like, you know, obviously we all understand the impact of K-pop in the world now. So it's like an appreciation for it I have now.
Yeah. We begged Maurene to be on this panel, by the way, everyone. Like, we were like,
you beg?
Like, reached out to her, DM'd her, like, emailed, Maurene, did you get my email? Please be on our K-pop.
Oh my God, I wasn't ignoring it. I'm just so behind. I have a baby now, unfortunately. Unfortunately.
That's totally fair. For me, I mean, yeah, ditto for a lot of the things you said, especially about K-dramas. And I'll go a step further with obviously like Wicked Fox and Vicious Spirits. They were written. My thought when I came up with the idea and wrote them was like, I want to write a K-drama in YA form, because I've always felt like there's a lot of overlap between themes and between how the characters come of age and their journeys. But something that people point out to me a lot, especially people who aren't used to K-dramas, is like the non-romantic relationships, because it is a romance. Like Wicked Fox and Vicious Spirits, it's like a paranormal romance, but they're like, wow, the relationship with the grandmother and the relationship with the parents and like all that. And I'm like, well, yeah, because that's what K-dramas are. Like, it's about everything that comes in to make this person who they are, and everything is treated with just as much importance, which is why like love triangles for me work so much more in K-dramas, because it's not just about like the romantic choice. It's about how these two different people influence who this main character ends up being by the end of the drama, and both relationships end up being just as important. It's just that like romantically they do end up with one versus the other. And I think that is a very Korean thing to me, in the sense that like when I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of Korean people around me. I grew up in Central Florida. And so like the way, like when I connected with a Korean person, it felt so intimate because like it was so unique to me. And it was like, we have this thing in common. You represent this thing that like, and when I was younger, I couldn't label it, but now looking back, like I hungered for it, right? Like I really wanted this connection with other people who looked like me and who had similar experiences, cultural experiences as me. And I do think like K-pop provides that too, in the fact that like I would argue K-pop, the way they function as like creating the music and the way fandoms function is very Korean to me. Like the way that Koreans, the way we interact with our media and our entertainment, we're like all in, and we're very much like, if I support you, I support you. Like I'm gonna get other people to buy your album. I'm not like a fair weather fan. I'm gonna, you know, and the way that K-pop fans interact with it is like, hey, let's get the views up on this. Hey, I figured out what the voting is on this music, you know, channel. So like, this is how we can get our group to win. And it's because of how engaged Korean people as fans are. And that has like seeped into K-pop fandom and influenced it. And now even other people who aren't Korean coming into the fandoms are practicing those same behaviors, maybe not even realizing that it has very deep roots into like Koreans support Koreans.
Yeah.
We cheer for each other kind of an attitude, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
We're very intense.
Yeah. We're not a chill bone in our body.
No.
No, like so much what you, Kat and Maurene, what you guys said resonates so much because, you know, like I actually did grow up like at a Southern prep school and like it got to a point where I felt so much more comfortable at school than I did at my Korean church on weekends. So like for long periods of my life, I didn't like connect that much of my personality to Koreanness, but actually like really getting into writing made me realize how Korean I am in a way, because like the way my mind works and everything, and just studying the culture more, I'm just like, oh wow, like some of my tendencies are very Korean, like dialogue, like in life and in writing, like a lot of my characters don't say exactly what they mean, and then they get very upset when they're misunderstood, and I
Oh
feel
my
like
gosh.
a very Korean thing, and what Koreans like kind of bump up against in America, because Americans are like, say exactly what you mean. I'm like, why should I? Like, I don't want, why can't you just read between the lines a little bit? Or like, you know, and like what you guys were saying about intensity, like, I think that like there's always a stereotype that like, you know, Asian people in general are like less emotional, but that's because people don't really know, or they haven't taken the time to really look, because Koreans are like extremely emotional, and we run hot, you know, like our food, it's really hot. So like, and like you said about K-dramas, they're so emotional. They're either like when you're really sad, when you're mad, you throw something, and when you are laughing, you don't just giggle, you like, ha, you know, you really laugh.
You fall
like,
backwards.
Exactly. And like I think that's so much of like what I value in like, you know, other people and myself has so much to do with Koreanness. Like that loyalty that we feel is like from Chungdara and like also like kind of that heat that we have. Like it comes out in so many different ways. Like, you know, Koreans are so funny. Like we have such like a good strong sense of humor that's really not just like individual personality, but it's like really a part of us, and I don't know that a lot of people know that. So yeah, I just like found through writing like just how Korean my personality can be.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, everything you guys are saying, it's all the same
Yeah.
for me. So it's like I don't know what to add, but I mean, it's just I'm just so happy that we could even have a panel where it's like, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
We've all had like similar but different experiences. Like even with me growing up, I loved Korean K-pop. I loved Korean music, but none of my friends did. And so like when they'd be like, what like I remember I was sitting on a bus and I was listening to I think it was G-Dragon's first album, like just on the bus to school. And this boy came over and he was like, what, just a white boy in my neighborhood. He was like, what are you listening to? And I was like, oh, and I was embarrassed just because I had grown up with people being like, oh, that's weird. Like, what are you doing? Like, right? And so I remember he like took I like, you can listen to like my headphones from my like, you know, disc player, Discman. Like, listening to it, and he's like, this is cool because G-Dragon's like rap. I'm like, right? Cool. And he gave it back to me and I was like so happy. So it's like interesting now that everyone loves K-pop, because I remember growing up, you know, I loved K-pop, but I was the only one that did. And like, I'm also not like a super fluent Korean speaker too. So it was like something that I just really loved. Like it wasn't like when you look on the media, it's not like, you know, you're not seeing necessarily, you know, Korean people. You know, now when was that? Early 2000s or 90s? And so it was. So when I'm writing about my culture now, it's a kind of a freeing experience because you just write what you know, right? You just write, and I'm not really thinking about the reader even when I write. I just write what I know, and then like afterward, I like do fact checking. Like, is this right? Because maybe it's just my family that does this.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I know that feeling.
Yeah. Oh, like you're like telling another Korean person, yeah, because this thing is, you know, culture, and they're like
fandom.
Yeah.
Well,
every Korean.
yeah. I feel like I learned that a lot of the words I thought were Korean words were just like the baby version that my parents made up.
Yes,
Oh my
Right?
god.
And then you say it in public to a Korean and they're like, what? And you're like,
Yeah.
uh.
Yeah, I had the added problem of like my family is from Chungcheongbuk-do, which is like basically like the Korean Midwest. So they have a very distinct dialect. So a lot of words that I know in Korea, I like went to Seoul. My parents were like, "What is that? What are you talking about? Like that's not Korean."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use baby words and ajumma words because
Yeah, that's a word.
Well,
You know,
I use that. I use old person words that were like considered like slang or whatever in like the 70s or 80s. Like,
Oh my gosh.
and like
Yeah.
that's what I was taught because that's like when my family came to America, and now I go to Korea now and I use these like, you know, ancient. It's like someone coming here and talking
Well,
to us.
you know what is really funny? When I went to Korea, I asked, I was like, I'm gonna ask where the bathroom was in a cafe, and I said, I used the word 변소, and they were like, you mean
Oh.
화장실, 화장실, right? Like, and it was kind of like rude, and I'm like, oh no, what's? And then I realized, oh, that's Japanese. But my parents grew up speaking a lot of Japanese words because of their occupation, and my mom was like, oh, they don't like that when you use the Japanese words, and I'm like, what? That's like I didn't know.
Yeah, that's like odeng in umot.
I was just gonna say.
Yes.
and like takwang or like
Yeah. Takwang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I only
Yeah.
recently learned about the odeng omo
Yeah,
thing.
same.
'Cause
Yeah.
until like 2020, I called it odeng.
Me too. I still call it that. And
Yeah.
it's just because I grew up with it, you know? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry. But yeah, it's kind of like we're not woke in Korea. we're like our parents' generation. We're all like using outdated stuff. They're like, hello.
Yeah. What about you,
Yeah.
Lyla? Did you answer?
Oh, yeah, so I was gonna say like I was like kind of like seeing parallels with what everyone said about like my own experience, but also like differences because I was born in Korea. So I actually was in ESL and when I first came to America, so kind of different. I'm still fluent in Korea. So but also I'm not that fluent in Korean anymore because like obviously I grew up speaking English and stuff. But I would say that when I first came to America and then also like I think K-pop was always existed in my life, but it was kind of separate from my writing. I was more into Korean dramas like Maurene, and like so like I also I think when I was a teenager growing up here, like I read books, but the books had like white characters, and like the only time I like saw myself represented in the story was like in K-dramas. So I feel like that's how I like was kind of like drawn to K-dramas more because it was more relatable. Even the sense of humor is different, like Korean humor and like American humor. But yeah, so I was very much influenced with Korean dramas in my writing. But for I guess like more recently, I actually like really like the lyrics in K-pop. So like in BTS, like they have like well, I actually like let me go back. So back to what I was saying about like how I kind of fell away from K-pop in high school, but kind of fell in love with K-pop again through BTS. I actually like was inspired to write AAPI The One by finding BTS K-pop dance covers because I wanted a way to exercise. And so I was like following along to like there's dance covers because this is before they were big. And then I was like, oh, their music's like really inspiring and fun. And then I was like, I want to write this kind of energy into a book. And that's how I kind of came up with AAPI The One. And like even now I feel like I listen to a lot of BTS songs while I'm writing to kind of fuel my writing.
Have you heard of K Cardio?
No, what's that?
On YouTube channel, it's K and then cardio with a K, KKARDIO, and they take K-pop songs and they use the dances for it, but they shift it to be like to be cardio dances that like in some cases they make it like not as hard. Like so they take BTS songs, they make it like not as hard so we can do it. But like then they'll take like a Twice song which like doesn't have high intensity and they'll add like aerobics into it so that you get a workout. So it's called K Cardio. And when the pandemic first started, I was also like, I'm gonna exercise way more. And I like did all of these K Cardio videos. I was just like dancing. Like my favorite one though is Psy's New Face.
Oh.
Because I can do it really well because Psy's dances are not hard.
Oh yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I need
When
to
you
be
try to do
really easy.
simple BTS, so hard. Even their simplest little steps, you're like, I can't do that.
A lot of footwork.
You know, I could only
Yeah.
dance to a ballad.
Not even a ballad. Like Save Me is a ballad, is arguably a ballad, and the Dance to Save Me is so hard.
No, yeah.
Oh my god.
So funny. Okay. Am I the next question person?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh shoot. Somehow I closed my mail. Hold on, it's popping up. Okay. Oh, maybe it was actually okay, yeah, it's my question. I have one like silly question. I'll ask a more serious one, I guess. Did you guys find it, because I did you guys find it hard to research K-pop as an industry for your books because it's so like, in a way, people talk about it like we all know the training camps are hard, but like I feel like when you actually try to get facts or numbers or something like that is impossible. And then also like hearing about people's personal experiences, like actual big K-pop stars don't ever really speak truthfully about it. So
yeah.
did you find the research a little difficult?
Yes. I did.
All good, Stephan.
Yes. All right, cool. Next question.
So like Entertainment Weekly sent me to Korea for 3 weeks to do like a big story all the way back in like 2015 or something. And like at EW, I was so used to being able to like arrange like interviews with like, you know, big stars just from like one call to their publicist. So when I went to Korea and I was like preparing, I landed in Korea without having any interviews lined up because it was so hard. They were like, oh, please come by to the office, bring your business card, bring like 10 copies of your magazine and highlight where your name is. You know, they want
God.
And I had so many incidents where like, you know, I did get interviews with big stars, but the last second they would say, oh, I'm sorry, like I'm not coming out of my room because, and then their manager would be like, oh, last week she had a sago. And I was like, wait, she was in a car accident? But they were like, no, she had like said something wrong in an interview last week. So now she's not. And that just happened so much. And like the people that they did let me talk to were the Korean American stars like Tiffany and Ailey actually, and like Tableau and people like that. And Roy Kim. And Eric Nam, who's my friend. And like yeah, it was
your name drop.
really difficult. Yeah. I ended up just like doing like all the research that any of us can do, like on YouTube and stuff like that. I talked to one friend who was in a trainee program at a big four, but only for a little bit. But like, you know, even they didn't have like that much information. So I ended up like mostly using a lot of imagination too, because I was just like, okay, so what I know about how it's structured, how would I feel? And I ended up like kind of researching how like a lot of other industries like gymnastics or competitive cheerleading, how hard that is on the body and mind and how competitive it is. So yeah, a lot of it came through imagination, but then it ended up being like, people have emailed me and been like, wait, how did you know this one detail? And I was like, oh, I kind of like put myself in that space and made it up. And they're like, oh no, we had that in a trainee program, but like we don't tell anyone about that. And I was like, oh wow. And that detail was like in my trainee cafeteria, the walls are glass separating the
the gender.
So the girls won't eat as much while the boys are watching. And in my mind, that's like a really messed up way to think. And that's how maybe like some ajashi might think about things, you know. So I'm gonna put that in the book. And like someone told me, no, that's exactly what they did.
Holy crap. So you made that up and it's actually true.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's really messed up.
I feel, well, for me, I didn't really have to do that much research because like he is a K-pop star, but it takes place here in the United States. So like he's already a K-pop star. He's not going through the trainee system. It's definitely more about how the industry controls like a K-pop star's life once they are already, and like his need to like break out from that control and have his creativity, which I do think in that sense has a little bit more overlap with like the music industry in general. But I will say in terms of like research, which like this wasn't to research the book, it was just because like I was such a K-pop stan for so long, is that there is so many reality shows about the behind the scenes. So like FNC did that Cheongdam-dong 111 that was all about like flying their new group, but then also about FT, Blue, and AOA, and like the difference between how the boy bands were treated than AOA, like the way that they monitored what the girls ate and everything was so different. And they talk about it too in that. And then Ashley from Ladies Code, she's not in Ladies Code anymore, but she has her own YouTube channel and she talks about like, and she also has a podcast with B2B Peniel and Cards. I'm gonna forget his name. He's who?
Is it Matt? BM? Yeah.
It was one of the two boys.
Yeah, American one. Yeah.
American one. And so they have a podcast, which I actually think is really interesting because it's like half of it is about how they were. Oh, people are saying it's BM.
They got you.
They got me. Thank you, guys. They talk about like coming to Korea as Korean Americans and joining K-pop, but then they also talk about like being in their 20s. But they like tell the truth about like not just the training, but like toxic friendships, like people using you for like clout and stuff like that. And then Ashley's friend Subin also has a YouTube channel, and she was also in K-pop. So like a lot of these K-pop stars actually are starting to make YouTube channels, and they're talking about it like really honestly out of their contracts.
Yeah. Oh, so, I love Subin's YouTube, and also Wayland from what was it?
Crayon Pop.
Crayon Pop. She has one too in Korean, and that has like a different perspective too. It's really cool. You get all the tea.
I got all. Yeah. I mean, like it's because of my weird K-pop obsession.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar in that like to Kat and Stephan, that like I grew up watching like reality K-pop shows, and where they have like well, first of all, my book is about a audition in LA, so it's not actually like in the industry because I didn't feel confident like writing about like industry in Korea. But I knew LA, I knew the K-pop fan base in LA, and I also like knew a family friend who he grew up in Irvine. No, I think it's somewhere in Southern California. And basically he actually won a K-pop competition, and they flew him out to Korea, and then he got like a record deal, and he got pretty big for a few years. Yeah, I think what Stephan said was right, and that like I find that more like the Korean Americans who are more willing to speak up and like talk about things. Because my friend's Korean American, and I actually like was able to like fly to Seoul and like talk to him, ask him about like the reality of being on the show and like what it was like for him. So yeah.
Did you, Lyla? Are you a fan at all of Nickun?
No.
Oh, because his I was wondering because when I read your book, the part where she's auditioning and they ask her to dance and she's like, oh no, that's not yours. That's Stephan's.
Oh
Who's
yeah.
The one who they ask her to Lyla, your girl can dance well.
No, Stephan. It's not mine.
Do you know Nickun's his casting story?
No.
Because it's very similar in that like when they asked him to dance, he was like, I don't know how to dance. And they were like, okay, well, we're just going to film you moving around. And he was like, okay. And like did like the Running Man and stuff and was like, I'm never going to get casted from this. And then he got a call like a week later. And and I was when I was reading your book, I was like, are you a fan of 2PM?
I didn't know that story. I was just like, what would I do?
Stephan's secret K-pop star.
But I love that because I feel like this industry being so difficult to research, we did all kind of have to pull from like our own imaginations slash kind of like that's not the point of our books, you know, to be like this precise like journalistic documentation. But like again, like capturing the feelings. That's how I felt for when I basically realized K-pop is really dark as an industry, and and if you want to get really real, it has to get really dark. And it's like I don't know if we all want to do that in our like YA contemporary novels, you know. So I had to make like the conscious decision to like kind of like tone that down. Like I'm like, okay, this is not really about how horrible the training was for Lucky, but how she feels as an artist, and like where's this hinge, this moment in time for her where she has to change her life or make a decision about it. And so, and then I also became really aware of like the fandom, and I really wanted to honor fans of K-pop and say like, it's not that K-pop is the problem or the K-pop artists, it's this industry, and that the artists that are still doing it, like your love of the music is the only reason why it makes this like worthwhile for a lot of these people, you know? So yeah, it was interesting. Like trying to, like I interviewed a K-pop journalist, and I also did the same thing where I actually reached out to K-pop stars that were willing to do it. And then they last minute were like, they would either ghost me or just suddenly wouldn't do it. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So
I think like the silence can be kind of a problem, especially with like Western media, because I think Western media often like portrays it as so bad and so dark because they don't understand it and because it's foreign. But like when you really think about it, like it's really not any different than any really competitive, high stakes industry. Because like look at all the really messed up things that happen in Hollywood. Yet it seems more messed up to people just because it's foreign and it's not.
Yes, totally agree. And I think there's this thing because we're Asian, right? And they have this idea of like Asians being like robotic, and you all just listen to the rules. And so of course you're this draconian. Your biggest K-pop industry, which brings joy, is actually joyless. There's kind of a racist aspect to that for sure. So we got that like audience question notice. Should we do that?
Axie, did you want to answer this question or?
Oh, sorry.
No, I mean it's like the same. I mean, for me, I got to avoid all that because my main, it's in first person point of view. My main character is not a K-pop star.
Nice.
No, I didn't really have this issue. But yeah, I just wanted to write a really fun like a rom-com, and it just so happens like the love interest is a K-pop star. So like you were saying, like I just wanted it to be happy, and I wanted someone to be able to dive into it and just really fall in love and be happy. So not a ton of research went into my book, but just a lot of fun things. Like the only thing that I was gonna say that was like kind of researchy was when I used to visit Korea for like just to see family. One of my relatives was a higher up in one of the big broadcasting companies. So I used to go see like the they have the weekly music shows on like those big broadcasting companies. I would go when I was in Korea. I would go every weekend, and I would go to like behind the scenes.
Wow!
I met Shiny. Oh, I didn't know. I've taken creepy photos of them.
I met them.
So like that's like insider. It's not even research because it was just something I experienced when I was a teenager. But yeah, so I avoided all of that by just not writing about, not having a point of view character.
That's the best thing about writing fiction, though. You can like bend your stories to like fit what research you actually have to do. You're like,
Exactly. Oh my god. My mom, when she was like telling me like advice about like how to make my books better.
Oh my god.
She was like, oh, like
Mom.
Put a ghost in the sequel.
It's a Korean mom thing to say.
People like that.
They do. Ghosts are great. I was gonna say too, Maurene, what you said. Like, I feel like that's totally true. It's like when you watch K-dramas that are about the K-pop industry, they're ridiculous. They're not that accurate, and you can take liberties with it. Like it's fiction. Like you're building this world, And I think like this ties to what we were saying before, like some things though just feel innately Korean. So like just keep it like one, I watched an interview with Taemin once and he was like talking about the 10,000 hours of practice philosophy. And he was like, that's just like, that's what our philosophy is in K-pop is the 10,000 hours of practice. And I was like, that's just like a Korean thing. Yeah. And then I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Cause like Korean pop, like duh. But I feel like, you know, like even Stephan with your gender glass, like you probably just like your Korean instincts.
Yeah.
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 Or it comes in.
Or even the way that like the instructors yell at the kids. I'm just like, there's like a certain way that like Korean adults get mad in a way that, like, it's so scary, but you also know that they don't really hate you. You know? Yes.
Like it seems really abusive. Like, you know, Whiplash, that movie Whiplash, I was like, just seems like a Korean drum you know? Like just like a harsh elder, you know?
Yeah.
But okay, maybe we should answer the like a audience question now. I'm new to K-pop inspired fiction, and I must admit my first thought is fan fiction. Do you have a relationship with fan fiction or actively keep your distance?
I love fan fiction. I love fan fiction and I have a respect for fan fiction. And I think that people dismiss it way too easily. And I think that when they think of it, they think of erotica first, which like is fair because erotica is a huge subsection of fan fiction. And but there's I'll give an example. Like there's a lot of fan fiction out there for Harry Potter, and whatever you'll say about like the creator of Harry Potter and like what, you know, the things that they say, there's the fandom has taken ownership of this world and these stories through fan fiction in a way that creates an inclusive world that's like beautiful with great relationships and developing side characters in a way that maybe we hoped they would have in the books. And we never would have that if not for fan fiction. So I love fan fiction.
I don't really have that strong of a relationship with fan fiction, but I do think it's great. I love it. I think it's especially a safe space for teenage girls.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why it's denigrated, because if anything, teenage girls like it, it's like trash, right? So I think it's a wonderful, I love, and you know what? So many YA authors started out in fan fiction that you know today.
Yeah. And like, I think a lot of us maybe did. I used to think that I never did fan fiction, but then I think back to like, when I was like 8 years old and I saw Jurassic Park, I completely did Jurassic Park fan fiction.
I want to read it.
I also did like Wizard of Oz fan fiction when I was little. I never thought of it as fan fiction, but I'm like, yes, that's clearly an outlet. You know, when you don't know how to build a world yet, using someone else's for the time being. And also, like Maurene saying, like there really isn't a line between like fan fiction and like, you know, legitimate fiction. Like I think that's really just a construct. And like my very good friend Emma Lord, who wrote Tweet Cute and You Have a Match, she got her start in fan fiction, and it was a great place for her to get her first intro. So yeah, keep up the fan fiction.
Yeah.
Next question.
Ooh.
Which K-pop group would you join if you had the chance?
Would we have any skill we needed, or is like as us now?
Yeah, because I was gonna say just like a sedentary. It doesn't
We
dig.
can say we can have whatever we want. We can be whoever we want, and be as guys whenever we want. I would pick Mamamoo because I just love their personality, and I feel like it'd be a very fun group
They're
to be a
like
part of.
sassy.
Yeah.
It's fun to hang out with. I think that's a big thing. It's not just which group you like, but which group could you spend 24/7 with.
Yeah, Mamamoo.
Yeah, I don't know the groups well enough, but I love the vibe of Red Velvet. They're just kind of like moody, and like they're the ones that wouldn't dance that much, and they'd be okay if I would just want to sit all the time.
Has some complicated dances though.
They do, but I feel like they do a lot of like handsy stuff, which I'm better with handsy stuff than like footwork.
That's fair.
What's
I
that?
would I would also, if this is possible for me to join a K-pop group, then I can also bring one back from retirement. So I would choose 21.
Oh, 21.
Oh yeah.
21.
RP 21.
I would bring them back. I would be like, come on, the group. Like,
Yeah, I would say like just about like Davichi, they just sit and sing, and it's just like ballads. But I have to be a good singer though, so I don't know. I'm like trying to think of like how like me actually being in a group, and I was like, no, can't dance, can't sing. Well, I don't know.
you should just be in day 6 so you can be the tambourine.
Oh yeah, like instruments. Oh, I think harp. Does Day 6 need a harpist?
No, harpist.
Oh yeah.
You could add that. It'd be like such a nice little. Okay, so we just got the 5-minute warning, but this is a spicy question.
Oh
Yeah.
god.
BTS.
Question. They're
Army.
It's like
There's
Everyone's like, no, I'm like BTS.
This is
like
like
different eras.
Yeah, there are different eras. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was never a big Suju fan though. Like I was always DBSK, so I'm just
That's
like,
good.
I wasn't a huge Suju fan, and their elves kind of scared me when I was younger because they were really intense. So I was more like Shawl, Shiny, that kind of thing. But still, Super Junior did a lot of firsts.
Yes.
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah.
To the way, so you got to respect, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's the dance will end the panel line.
Is that it? That was the question? Oh, okay. Which K-pop songs would your characters do a dance cover of?
Ooh.
Our characters?
Well, for sure, Lucky. Yeah, I would pick Lucky would do for which she would do Kashina.
No, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. That'd be sexy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But there's certain dance covers that every rookie group just does a cover of. Like everyone
Yes,
does.
they do.
Every girl does New World. Every girl.
Yeah.
Like it's just how it's done. And like every boy does Neurotic.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Radic is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sky. Oh, sorry.
You go ahead, Lyla.
Okay, so Sky actually does a cover of Idol, and to write that scene, I actually taught myself Idol.
Whoa.
Watching the huh?
Do you want to dance for us?
Yeah.
No.
We promised dancing.
No. It's been like 4 years since I danced that choreo, or like it's been a while.
But you know what? You saying that reminds me. I do like it when guy groups cover girl group dances and vice versa. I do.
Oh yeah. And they put a lot of attitude in it. I love that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Did any songs or bands specifically influence your stories? Ooh,
I
Blackpink.
think all of us, except for I think everyone from Maurene would be lying if we didn't mention BTS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Actually, Maurene.
didn't I love BTS so much, I truly do, but they didn't influence it because I really was looking for like girl groups and like the pressures on a female artist versus, so for sure like Sunmi and Chungha and who else, Hyuna, like there were a few other people that girls, but they didn't really, it wasn't really Lucky's character, but like just their vibes really influenced me.
I definitely thought of Hyuna a lot for Lucky and
yeah,
like
well, yeah,
2000s Boa, especially because of like how Hyuna's agency treated her when they found out she was dating.
I know, you guys, that scandal was so Korean because they were like, we're not only mad you dated, but he's not famous enough for you.
Yeah, she's literally like, we're not the same level.
Yeah, they're like, oh.
That was the issue. Yeah.
That was a huge issue. I kind of semi-based a issue in my book based on that because when I remember as a fan like watching it and being like, this can't be real, and then just being like really disheartened with the industry for a while, being like, I can't believe that they would do that. Like to people like, and Hyuna was big. Like
yeah, that was huge.
Fired her. So that definitely influenced me, hugely influenced by EXO, Big Bang, But one of my characters is a little bit influenced by Sungjae from B2B, just because I love.
Yeah. Everyone assumes that like the boy band in my book, SLK, is based on BTS, but I was actually thinking more of Big Bang for them.
Mhm.
Oh.
Dragon, just like that one main star in a group. And also, I don't know about you guys, but like my main character, whenever I pictured her in my head, I pictured her as like a real pop star. I pictured her as Dahyun from Twice, but like in the American version.
She's cute. I like her. Yeah, I like that a lot. Did you guys have Dreamcasts for like other than Stephan? Did you guys have Dreamcasts at all?
I did, and for reasons I don't want to say it.
Ooh, maybe.
Sorry.
For reasons.
Like me, end video.
Yeah, and that's it. That's our panel.
Thanks for your questions. Hi, Jessica. Hi, Patricia. All
Hi,
right.
everybody.
Names that I recognize.
Oh,
Do we want to go around and say our socials, or if we have them?
oh yeah.
Sure.
I guess we're near the end. So, well, Lyla and Axie, did you want to answer either of those questions, Dreamcast or inspired by?
I was just gonna say it was more. It's not like like what you were saying with BTS. It's not necessarily BTS. It's like for me, it was boy groups because my love interest, he's part of a boy group. So it wasn't necessarily like BTS. It was like BTS, GOT7, NCT. It's like all the boy groups and their dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
That less of like a specific group. So yeah, in a way, like yes, they all did. They all influenced my book. And dreamcasting, you know, anyone.
Anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, yeah. I mean, BTS was a big influence because their energy and vibes were just so contagious. But I think I'm actually closer to Maurene, where that I was looking at Chunghwa, Sunmi, Hyuna, Ailey, like all the big solo female artists. Ihai, and then like Red Velvet and Mamamoo. So those are all my influences. And as for Dreamcast, I'm not really the kind of writer that like actually like puts the actual person's face on my characters. So no to that.
You know what I think? What I ended up doing is for each of like the 5 members in my group, I was like, this person is like EXO Chanyeol, and this person is like Shiny Taemin, this person. So I made like a super M pretty much, where I took my favorite, right? Like, but I took my favorite members of different groups and I put them into my super group for my book. That's what I ended up doing.
It's like your fantasy football, but like yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So I guess we're at the hour, a little bit above. But yeah, everyone, do you want to go around and just say where everyone can find you on the internet? Let's do alphabetic first name. Axie, you go first.
Okay. Hi, my name is Axie. My book is XOXO. You can find me at Axie Oh on Twitter and Instagram.
Awesome. Okay, I guess I'm next. I'm Kat Cho. My Once Upon a K-Prom, it's not like up for pre-order or anything yet, but if you want to add on Goodreads, totally do that. And I'm at Kat Cho on Twitter and at Kat Cho Writes on Instagram and TikTok.
Whoa, book talk.
Book talk. Yeah, I'm Lyla Lee. I'm the author of I'll Be the One. My second book, Flip the Script, is so new that it's not even Goodreads yet. But you can find me at Literary Lyla on Twitter and Instagram. But also my website is lylaleebooks.com, where you can find the playlist for I'll Be the One.
I am Maurene Goo, the author of Somewhere Only We Know, which is actually having an ebook sale right now through Amazon for $2.99 for three more days. So you should get that ebook. I also have my Silk comics by Marvel. They are out right now, and there are 3 issues in. There are 2 more issues left if you want to get them. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Maurene Goo. Just my name.
And I'm Stephan Lee. author of Kpop Confidential. And you can find me on Instagram at Stephan and Twitter at Stephan Lee. And that's it. This was so much fun. This was like the funnest book panel I've done. Well,
yeah, definitely.
With Lyla at my
Yeah.
But this is so much fun.
Okay, Lyla, take us out with your dancing.
No.
Sorry, Nick.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.